Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen and head-up display inside of the Hyundai Palisade. This is a 2026 model, so it's going to be a different layout and setup compared to the 2025 and the previous gens. If you want to walk through that version, you'll find it down in the description, and while the layout is different, the functionality is essentially the exact same. So let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing is that the steering wheel inside the vehicle might be heated. In your climate controls, there's a button that you're going to push with two unique levels, and it's heated all the way around. Across the entire lineup, it's also going to be a manual telescoping steering wheel. So down by your left knee there, along the left part of the column, there's a release. You can go in, out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you find it, click it in order to lock it back into place. And there are so many different buttons and stalks, but we're going to start off though with some buttons down by our left knee. So you can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. So we've got our illumination levels that way. I always just recommend max brightness. You can open and close the lift gate. If you're in the hybrid, you'd also have to push this button in order to be able to open up the fuel door, put yourself into tow mode. There's your electronic parking brake here too. So you're going to pull out in order to turn it on. Push and hold the brake pedal, push in order to turn it off. It's pretty simple there. There's also your traction control system, so you can toggle that one on or off. The only time I really recommend toggling it off, really slippery, snowy conditions, if you're not getting good traction, you can toggle it off there as well if you'd like. You've got seat memory, potentially, as available as an option. So what you're going to do, get your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to. So you're going to use the switch in the back here in order to go four-way lumbar support, move the backrest forwards, backwards, the seat forwards, backwards, up or down, and then you've got this little guy, you might have it, I should say, for leg cushion, which is pretty neat. And then you've got an additional switch here too, but once you've got everything set up, you also want to set up your side view mirrors the way that you normally set them up. So you're going to go left versus right. If you go in the middle, nothing would adjust. So set up your side view mirrors the way that you'd like. Once you've got that set up, you're going to push and hold, either one or two, for it to remember your own personal setup there too. And then you might have this button, and this one is for available active motion seats. You've got a full massage chair seat capability available inside of this vehicle. And it's really nice. It's pretty subtle, but I love that you've got that available as an option here too. And so many different buttons and stalks. But we'll start off along the left-hand side here. So with your lights, you've obviously got, well, left stock there. So you've got your blind spot view monitor, which is pretty cool. So it utilizes the side-mounted camera to show you what's going on in your blind spot. Your lights though, if you push away, we're in the auto mode right now. So you can't actually lock your high beams out completely. If you go into your setup here, so you're going to go setup, vehicle, lights, and then, well, I guess the one here would be your turn signal. So if you just tap the turn stalk, you've got three flashes. So you can either go 1, 3, 5, or 7, but you've got your high beam assist. So with your high beam assist at nighttime, push away here. So you're in your auto headlamp mode. So if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, turns them on automatically. If somebody's oncoming, turns them off before turning them right back on again. At night, you could still push them away to turn them on, but if you wanted to have them permanently on, go into your upper headlight mode. Push away to turn them on, pull towards you in order to turn them off. But you're going to be in that auto mode though the majority of the time. The stalk along this side is going to be for your wipers. So if you go one down, that's just going to be a quick wipe. If you go one up, that's going to put you into the intermittent level. So you then use the rocker in the middle here to see how fast or slow rain's hitting the windshield. Go up to some of those crazy modes. You're going to pull in towards you in order to get that front wiper fluid going. And then you've got this little guy along the outside. So you're going to go up or down to adjust at the rear wiper. Then you're just going to push away in order to get that rear windshield wiper fluid going. Down low, your other little shifter stalk. So push button start here. I was like going crazy trying to figure out how to start this car up when I first jumped in. Start stop there. Changing gears, just make sure your foot's on the brake pedal. If you lightly go up or down, it's going to put you into neutral. All the way up or all the way down, so reverse versus drive, etc. And then the button on the tip of the stalk there in order to put yourself back into park. When you're in reverse, drive, etc., you've got your sensing system, so all the way around, and you do have the flexibility of being able to toggle that sensing system off, so that beeping that you get when you get around obstacles. So if that drives you nuts, you could disable that as well. There are paddles available inside the vehicle, so minus along the left, plus along the right side. So if you wanted to drop gears to essentially change out your shift points, you've got that available as an option. If you've never used paddles before, you want a better, deeper explanation of when to use them, why to use them, how to use them, etc., you'll find a walkthrough down in the description of this video. And then you've got these ones here. So the buttons along the outside are going to be for cruise control. There's only a single type of cruise control available inside of the Palisade, and that's going to be your smart cruise or adaptive cruise control system. So you toggle the speed on, or toggle the system on, I should say. It's going to set you at your current speed, at least 30 kilometers an hour, so around 20-ish miles an hour. From there, you can increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time, push and hold up or push and hold down to increase, decrease at larger increments. You hit the brake to cancel, pause your speed, push the button in the middle there to cancel, pause your speed, push in again in order to resume your previously set speed. But I mentioned single type of cruise, and that's the adaptive based off of your gap adjustment here. So there are 4 unique levels that are available. Think of that like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, for how close or far you are away from that leading vehicle. I'm personally okay level 1 most of the time, but you might want to be on 2, 3, or 4, depending on your own personal comfort level and your reaction speed. But with the adaptive cruise control system, the car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your previously set speed. I know some people aren't crazy about the adaptive cruise, so what I'd recommend, go on level 1 for your gap adjustment. If you find the vehicle slowing down too quickly, pause it temporarily by hitting that or hitting the brake, and then just resume again. It's a really simple process. Inside of the infotainment system, if you go into your setup, vehicle, driver assistance, driving convenience, you've got some different cruise options here too. So smart cruise control, so you can adjust your gap adjustment from inside the infotainment system here, or by tapping the button along the steering wheel there. And then how fast or slow is it going to accelerate and react? So let's say if it slowed you down, is it going to react quickly? So re-accelerate the vehicle, and then your different reaction speeds there too. And then the highest trim levels will also have the option for highway lane change assist. So if yours has highway lane change assist, you'll notice another little icon popping up along the outside here. So it's essentially going to be lanes with arrows pointing on the outside. On the highway, if the vehicle recognizes those lane markings and there's nobody in your blind spot, you'd hit the turn stalk to go left or right. It's going to check to see if there's anybody in the lane next to you and then change lanes for you automatically. It is a beautiful system. And then there's this little guy. So if you just do a light tap, yeah, it's not going to work because I'm parked right now. So if you just do a light tap, that's your lane follow assist. If you do a push and hold instead, that is going to be your lane keep assist. So you can see the icon, show or hide there. The difference, so this one here is the lane keep assist. If the vehicle recognizes the lane markings and you start to veer over without signaling, it'll nudge you back into your lane. Versus the lane follow assist, which is just a light tap. Same idea, those lane markings are recognized. The car is not self-driving, but if you lose focus for a second, you're rubbernecking like an idiot, whatever the case may be. If you lose focus for a second, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in that lane. When you're going around a bend, you technically don't even need to turn the wheel yourself. So if you just lightly grip, you'll notice that it starts to turn the wheel for you automatically. It is a really, really cool system. But if you want a live demonstration of using cruise control, you'll find that down in the description of this video. There's a pages button here to get to some individual pages. I'll show you that in a second. And then there's also a little rocker switch here to get to some subpages. Along this side, you've got a few different options. So this is a voice command prompt. You'll be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice. You can adjust climate using your voice here too. Open and close the trunk. There are so many things you can do using your voice. So what I'd actually recommend, play around with that a little bit once you first get your vehicle. You can answer or hang up on a phone call. There's a little volume rocker here. You can push in the middle to mute. You can also adjust your audio this way too. And then you've got an up-down switch here. If you're off of the media screen, so media specifically, if you're on this screen, what's going to happen is you can go up and down between all of your presets, but you can also push up or push down in order for it to act as a seek button instead. Just pretty neat, but like I said, you can also just change stations using your voice. Then there are 2 custom buttons here, and these ones are adjusted inside of the infotainment system. So under your setup, you're going to go buttons, and then you've got your custom star button along the steering wheel here. Right now I have it set up so when I tap it, puts the screen in more of like a calming view, but you've got a bunch of different options that are available here too. So what does that custom button do? And then the mode button here. Same idea. Do you want to change it between all of your different sources? So if you tend to listen to just sounds of nature and FM, when you tap the mode button now, it's going to change you specifically between the sources that you have set up here. And then you can also adjust out the up-down switch, but the other one is your volume tuning knobs. So do you want that to be, so it's volume as a default, tuning, but you can swap it out. So that would be tuning, that would be volume. With your controls there, it might make sense for that to be a tuning rocker, but you've got a bunch of different options that are available. Inside of the Palisade, you've got these little guys. So those are cameras that are watching your face to make sure that you're paying attention and looking forward. You do have the flexibility of being able to toggle that off though. So inside of the infotainment system, you go to your setup, vehicle, driver assistance, and then driver attention warning. So you've got your forward attention warning. So that's once it's watching your eyes to make sure you're actively looking at the road. You can toggle that one off. Inattentive driver warning. If you start to veer over too many times of that signaling, looks like you're dozing off, etc., you're going to get a message in the cluster letting you know that you should probably take a break. And then there's also your leading vehicle departure. So if you've come down to a complete stop and the car in front of you started driving and you haven't started moving yet, it's going to give you a little message inside of the cluster screen letting you know that you should be driving. And then back to the cluster, you've got your parking brake there, so whether or not it's enabled, disabled, whatever drive mode you're currently in, so you can see the mode there. Auto hold, whether or not that one's toggled on, off. With the auto hold setting enabled, if you are in drive and you take your foot off of the brake pedal, the vehicle is not going to move. So it's pretty good from a basic safety perspective. This is the hybrid, so you've got your ready to drive with your EV settings and then this unique tachometer. I'll explain that one in just a second. You can see what gear you're currently in, so park, reverse, neutral, drive, etc. You've got your different sensing systems, so as you get closer to obstacles all the way around you, you can see whatever's going on. Your current odometer is there along the very bottom side on top of that. And then you've got your speedometer there with your fuel gauge done two different ways. So you've got your total gauge there with your miles or kilometers till empty. You've got your lane markings there, which can be adjusted using the pages button here, but I'll explain that. You can toggle this little feller on or off inside of the infotainment system, and then you've got your tachometer there with your battery gauge. So since this is the hybrid, you can see how much power you have inside of the vehicle. So as of right now, I'm less than a quarter, or a little bit over a quarter, which is why the engine's turned on. So actually, if we go to our pages for a second here, and actually let's go to this one and down, you can see here that the vehicle is currently turned on. So the motor's running in order to shoot power back to the battery. So it's charging it up there. So the traditional hybrids inside of the Hyundai world charge up two different ways. Way number one is what we're witnessing right now. So it's got the gas motor going in order to charge up the battery. So we've got our different levels there. But as you regenerative brake, that's where this charging gauge comes into play too. So you put your foot down and you'll notice that the gauge drops this way because it's trying to recapture charge. Think of these ones more of like your traditional tachometer. So what kind of power are you putting down? But you do have the flexibility of adjusting this out to look more like a traditional tachometer view like you can see inside of sport mode. If you go into your setup here, and then you've got two different ways that you can do it. But if we go cluster head-up display, you can adjust out the brightness of the cluster screen this way if you'd like to. So auto brightness, I just recommend keeping that turned on. But you've got your cluster theme selection. So right now we're in the classic view. So there's either simple, modern, or classic. So you've got different looks that are available, and then as you go between all of your different drive modes, so your drive terrain modes, it's going to change up the look. But if you love the eco mode, but you love the style of the sport mode, you can lock it into that different mode. But you've still got your hybrid version of the gauge there. Obviously, if you weren't in the hybrid, it would be your traditional tachometer. But if you really love that style, if we go back into the tachometer display, when you're in the eco mode now, do you want your tachometer showing? So you can select each individual mode, whether or not it's going to show your traditional tachometer or if it's going to be that hybrid mode display instead. Then back to the cluster here, if we were to jump into our different pages, so along the bottom you can see there are 3 different pages with some sub pages along the outside. So you're going to use your little scroll wheel to go up and down. If you ever get a message inside of the cluster screen, the little scroll wheel here, you can just push OK in order for it to act as an OK button to get rid of any message. Your current trip is from when the vehicle was last turned on, so it's your current ignition cycle. This is the fuel economy that you've gotten. Down one more, you've got your since refueling level. So since you fueled up, what economy have you gotten? And then you've also got your since last reset. So you've got a few different trip counters that are available here. Any of these counters, you can see hold OK to reset. It's the same idea. You take that OK button, push and hold it in order to be able to recenter that out instead. You do have the flexibility of changing out your measurement units inside of the infotainment system. So if you go to your setup, and then you're going to go general settings, scroll down until you hit your units. So you can either be in miles or kilometers. So you can easily adjust it out there, and it adjusts everything. If you're in kilometers, you're going to be in the liters per 100. That's going to be the measurement unit that you're probably going to be used to. You can also adjust out your temperature unit. So if you've got your climate going, do you want to be in Celsius or Fahrenheit? And then your tire pressure unit, do you want to be in either PSI, kPa, or bar? And then if we drop down a level, you've got your engine temperature, tire pressure, so you have to actively be driving in order to be able to see your tire pressure. Your power distribution, so if you were front wheel drive, you'd only have the front two, but all wheel drive means you can see which axle is getting which amount of power. Really neat as you go to accelerate quickly. And then idle. So right now the engine's turned off, so we're in the EV mode, which is why it's stopped. When you're using the EV battery as you're driving, you'll notice that the battery here is shooting power to the engine instead of it going the opposite way to charge up. It looks really neat as you drive. And then your digital speed is there too. Pages button one more time in order to get to your compass view. So if you've got a route going, what's going to happen is it's actually going to show you not turn-by-turn directions, but like a full map and cluster, I should say, but you've at least got turn-by-turn directions there. So it is pretty neat that's available. If you didn't have a route going, it would just be a compass, and that's strictly going to be for factory navigation. So if you had maps running on your phone, it wouldn't shoot your maps inside of the cluster screen. And then there's your driving assistance page. You can push and hold OK to get to a series of settings inside of the infotainment system. But on this main screen, as you drive on the highway, if lanes are available, it recognizes them. They'll go green here as well. Some versions of the Palisade also are going to have a head-up display, and you've got different display options that are available. Inside of the infotainment system, if you go to your setup, cluster head-up display, and then head-up display, you've got a number of different options here. So you can toggle that head-up display off completely if you'd like to, but you can also adjust some things. So you can raise the head-up display up or down. You can rotate it to the right or the left too, so just depending on how you sit on your seat. You can also adjust at the brightness, but I always recommend maximum brightness, and then you can select what information is going to show up there. So do you want your turn-by-turn direction showing up if you've got a route going? Do you want media information showing up? So as you move between all of your different songs, stations, etc., do those show up, yes or no? Driving assistance, and then blind spot safety information too. So if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side, it's going to highlight on that side to let you know if somebody's entered the blind spot. Underneath the screen here, you've got dual zone climate control available. If the passenger side was set to something different, you can tap in the middle in order to sync it up to the driver's side. You'll have heated seats in the majority of trims with the option for ventilated. Your heated steering wheel there. You can toggle climate off completely. You can adjust out the fan speed here. Have it going to your windshield face feet, some sort of Frankenstein combination. You can control the front or the rear climate simply by tapping this way there too. You can have your front defroster going, rear defroster going, air circulation. So with this one turned on, it's essentially going to circulate air from inside the vehicle. With it turned off, it's going to pull air from outside the vehicle in. You've got a 12-volt power point down low. USB data transfer. So that's specifically going to be for data transfer for USB sticks, or if you want to use, let's say, on a wired Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. These are fast charge ports. There's an available UVC light cleaner here too, so phone cleaner. Wireless charge pad, and I love this. Cup holders that are big enough for some big bottles. Along the outside here, you've got your downhill brake control. The beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles, with a button for your 360 camera. So most trim levels of the 26 Palisade, 26 Plus, will have this available as an option. Beautiful. Up overhead, there's the auto-dimming rear view mirror with a fully digital rear view available optionally with your HomeLink system. So if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can push the button there in order to either adjust at the brightness, or you can move that camera up or down. or flip it back to that other view. And like I mentioned, auto dimming. Dashcam is available here too, which is actually something that's new for the 26 model. So you've got, when I tap it, yes, so turn manual recording on, but there is a full dash cam available inside of this vehicle. And if we go over, there we go, dash cam. So not standard, but I'd honestly recommend doing it from the factory, because look at this. Front and rear dash cam, and it records to an SD card as well. I've been waiting for more manufacturers to do this. I love that Hyundai set this up, but you can have it on all the time while you're driving, on while parked, if there's motion from detected while you're parked events as well. So if somebody dings your vehicle when you're parked, you can have these all recorded or not. Beautiful. You can see live views here on top of that. I love it. But yeah, you saw there, so that's that manual recording. So it's going to start turning the recorder on for us there. SOS and tow motor there. You got all of your cabin control lights, so individual controls, a global control. Do you want your lights to come on when the doors are opened? Yes or no? Most trims will have the, well, I should say all trims will have the single roof available there. So it's a manual shade across the board regardless. But then you've also got a little control here for the second row sunshade. And that's strictly the sunshade. So that roof doesn't actually open up in the back. But you can fully open up the one along the top here instead. I know that was a heck of a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the steering wheel, cluster, and the head-up display inside of the Hyundai Palisade.